Psalm 145. The Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. The Lord is good to all, and his compassion is over all he has made. All your works shall give thanks to you, O Lord, and all your faithful shall bless you. They shall speak of the glory of your kingdom, and tell of your power to make known to all people your mighty deeds, and the glorious splendour of your kingdom. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. The Lord is faithful in all his words, and gracious in all his deeds. The Lord upholds all who are falling, and raises up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them their food in due season. You open your hand, satisfying the desire of every living thing. The Lord is just in all his ways, and kind in all his doings. The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth. I was sitting on a bench on Millennium Green the other day, enjoying the sunshine and listening to the incredible chorus of birds. Wanting to understand which birds were making which sound, I clicked on the Merlin app I'd recently installed on my phone. It immediately recorded and identified 6 different birds, highlighting the dominant one. I could then click on the photo of each bird and find information. While I was sitting, I thought first of all about the amazing and wonderful diversity of this planet. There's not just one bird, but hundreds and probably thousands. The planet we call home is teeming with richness, brimful of God's generous bounty. Then I thought of another aspect. The fact that the little icon I clicked on my phone was giving me so much information and so much pleasure. We often distrust technology and even wish we could turn the clock back to when life was simpler. But God made us to be inquirers, to have a thirst for knowledge. Why otherwise would we explore space, make advances in medicine, be scientists, philosophers, always searching after knowledge? God made us to be inquirers, primarily so that we could thirst after knowledge of him. Oh, and incidentally, the Merlin app is absolutely free. The beautiful and uplifting psalm I've just read is full of praise for God and all his works. We're always praising God in prayers, in hymns, but I wonder whether at times we just go through the motions. How often do we stop and reflect, as David did in the psalm, on what God is, on what he has done and is doing, creating us, upholding us, loving us, working all the time on our behalf, and only asking that we return his love and put him at the centre of our world. And that's not easy to do. Somehow, everything becomes about how it affects us. Everything is about our wants, our goals, our plans, our emotions. And the fact of the matter is that all this self-interest doesn't produce healthy relationships or a happy life. It never produces love for God and worship of God. Psalm 145 shows us that we were created to live for something vastly bigger than ourselves. C.S. Lewis, in his wonderful book, The Screwtape Letters, shows huge insight into the tendency we have to take the amazing world around us for granted. The senior demon, Screwtape, is giving advice to his junior demon, Wormwood, on how to keep people from being Christians. Screwtape writes, "Keep pressing home the ordinariness of things." In our fast-paced life, it's a tendency we all have not to stop and look at the world around us, but to think of this beautiful universe as ordinary. But science is now, and at no other time in history, showing us that this universe created by God is one of incredible design and complexity. It's giving us a new perspective on a world we too often take for granted. We come to faith in different ways. For Chris, it was there from childhood, understated and constant. He never, he said, wanted to inquire too deeply in case it went away. And that's fine. I'm different. Coming late to a belief in God and Jesus, I've not only had to make the leap of faith, as it's called, but I've wanted, and still do, to look into the whys and wherefores, to understand the vast scientific underpinning of faith. If you were like me, a book I would highly recommend is I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, a lovely title, by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. And then this rich psalm gives us more. It tells us that God is full of compassion. He isn't just compassionate, he is full of compassion. What is compassion? It's sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering of all his creatures. The Lord upholds all who are falling and raises up all who are bowed down. To those of us, like myself, who are presently suffering and going through the valley of the shadow of death, we need to rely on and trust in God to lead us through. And not just to lead us through, but to carry us, as in the beautiful poem, Footprints in the Sand. One night I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with my Lord, across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene I noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only 1 set of footprints. This really troubled me, so I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only 1 set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. He whispered, "My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never, ever, during your trials and testings, when you saw only 1 set of footprints, it was then that I carried you."